the Autopilot and its options. So you got the different lane change notifications, minimum lane changes for current drive. So what that is full self-driving beta will limit the lane changes only to follow navigation route or when required for safety. This option gets reset when the car is parked at the end of a drive. I'm not sure I understand really what that means. You can change your offset speeds and everything. It also comes with summon, which is basically where your car is parked. You can summon it, which will pull it out of the parking spot into the location that you've asked it to drive to. So the example they always give for that is going to be it's raining and you don't want to walk out to your car. So if you click summon, it will drive the car up to the closest to the door to you, and then you won't have to worry about that. Then you've got automatic blind spot camera and blind spot collision warning. That's all standard stuff. The rest of this stuff's pretty standard as well. So one thing that you notice with when you have Autopilot is when you click the steering stick to the right and left, it brings up a menu like this, but instead it is actually going to be, you notice how I just did a lane change? Because I put it into medium mode, and then if I do assertive, it's going to do maximum lane changes in order to keep up with the speed that I got set to, and it will make lane changes quickly, like you just did. You notice it also, what it did, there was a car coming up behind me, you couldn't see it, but not only did it change lanes because I wasn't going fast enough, it sped up quickly so that it would not slow down the car behind me. So this is really, if I'm driving on the interstate, I prefer assertive. If I don't want it to make any changes, chill is probably the more better one. The average is kind of in the middle. Sometimes it will kind of pull out in front of cars and not speed up enough. I don't necessarily like that. The only thing so what this normally does, though, back to what I was talking about with Autopilot, is that would change the space allowance or the gap to the car in front of you, that it will start slowing down. So it will always leave a 2-car gap or a 3-car gap, 4-car, 6-car, blah, 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 and I think it goes all the way up to like a 12-car gap in between you and the car in front of you. While this is, the car is making the decisions for you on how many lane changes to make, when to make them, how far to get in front of the car, to the car in front of you. It's not going to be the same amount every time. It's going to get closer to the car in front of you, but then it's also going to kind of evaluate in order to like swoop into somewhere or get out of somewhere, how close it can get. So it's more like a human driver. One thing I don't like about it is that it does ride in the left lane. I'm not passing anyone, and it is riding in the left lane, which I find to be a completely wrong way of driving, and it gets on my nerves. So, yeah. So my overall opinions of full self-driving with the beta, after using it for 2 days, really 3 days, including 2 long-distance travel trips, is that full self-driving beta does okay on the interstate. If you are used to driving with Autopilot, I personally don't think it's giving you any benefit, and as a matter of fact, I would argue in its current state, because it is so finicky with you watching the road and paying attention. If you look down at your phone at all, it will like beep at you, even if it's for 2 seconds. There's no real time for it to not do that. And it will put you in timeout or Autopilot jail with full self-driving beta. So with Autopilot, it's not quite that finicky. It has gotten worse in the last year, where they make you pay attention more often. It will notify you, and it's quick to turn off if you don't look up quickly. And I think that has to do with maybe some of the lawsuits that are going on. So Tesla's having to really, enforce the car to enforce you to pay attention, which is okay. It makes Autopilot experience worse, in my opinion. And so, but Full Self-Driving is worse than Autopilot. So, for road trips, Full Self-Driving Beta does great. But I still like Autopilot better, except for the fact that Autopilot won't change lanes. But at the end of the day, I don't think I really care for that much. What I value with Autopilot, or with Full Self-Driving on the interstate, is the fact that my eyes are not as strained. My brain is not as tired. My arms are not as tired from steering and things like that. So Autopilot Beta, or Full Self-Driving Beta, it does do the arm thing. Your arms aren't getting tired because it's doing the steering for you, just like Autopilot. You could argue that you're using your arms less because you don't have to change lanes. But I kind of like having control over that, and it doesn't use a lot of arm strength to change lanes every now and then with Autopilot. So if I had to mark one check for the other, I would say they come out even on the interstate or highway, because Autopilot, I get to not have to focus quite as hard on the road. I can glance at my phone for a couple of seconds and look back up, while paying attention, but just kind of like looking like away with my peripheral vision kind of there, and then the car's watching as well, which I think is pretty safe. And then, but with Beta, I can't do that. So I can't even look over at this camera for a second, really. So it's made it clear to me that there's a pro and there's a con. I can't really say one versus the other. So since one's $15,000 or $12,000, one's free, I can't make the recommendation that you spend the money for something that to me comes out pretty close to the same thing. It kind of depends on what you want, but for me, using Autopilot all the time, I definitely don't see a benefit worth $12,000 on the interstate. So then that brings you to the only other option of using Autopilot or Full Self-Driving Beta, and that is in cities and things like that. So in cities and on regular streets, Beta will stop at stop signs. Beta will stop at red lights. It will turn left. It will turn right. It will, go wherever you want to go. This morning when I drove to work, I literally pulled out of my neighborhood, and I turned Full Self-Driving Beta on, and it drove me all the way to work with just a couple of corrections where I had to take over, basically. One of them was because there was an accident, and the car wanted to ride in the right lane because I thought it was going to be turning up ahead in the right lane, when they had that lane blocked off by first responders, and everybody was getting in the left lane. We were still far away from it. So I had to take over to stay in the left lane. It wanted to get in the right lane. It should see everybody else getting over in the left lane and figure that out. It didn't. The next thing was the fact that there's construction getting onto the interstate on that road, and the way the maps are, you would go right and wrap around to get onto the interstate. But they have that entire area removed because they're completely changing the way the interchange works there. And right now, the way they have it is you actually take a left and you get on the interstate to the left past the bridge to go down to the interstate. So there are a lot of signs that tell you to go westbound on 20, you have to take a left, that it's not to the right. There's several signs that say that as you're pulling up. The car did not read those signs and did not realize that, and it kept wanting to get into the right lane so that it could go right to get on the interstate, even with the signs and all this other stuff. So that's a failure as well, so I had to take over and manually go left. Other than that, it was able to do pretty much everything from leaving my neighborhood to literally pulling into my work parking lot. It didn't find a parking space, but it pulled into the parking lot, actually into the actual parking area of the parking lot. So, that I wanted it to go. And so, maybe if I put a pin down in a parking spot, it would have parked there, but it didn't park for me. So, full self-driving beta, when it comes to the road, it can work really well. When we were in Charlotte, we had a couple of issues. One, the car did run a stop sign on a busy road. I turned on autopilot. I was watching it. It came around this sharp curve, which then came up to a 4-lane road, highway, and then you would come to a stop sign. You either take a left or a right. And we were taking a left. So the car comes around the corner, and instead of slowing down and stopping, it's a short little span between the curve and that. So the car couldn't see the stop sign until after it got around the curve. So instead of stopping, the car sped up and just went up over the highway and took the left. Luckily, there was no cars coming. That was a very dangerous situation, and I had my family in the car. So I was not thrilled about that, and it did it so quickly I couldn't even react. The car actually did that quicker than I could react because I didn't expect it. Even though I had my hand on the wheel, I had my foot down near the thing, it just was so quick. The next thing it did that I didn't like, and I don't know if you're supposed to turn full self-driving on in park lots or not, I was leaving Target. I have a video clip of this I can put in. I was leaving Target, and I turned full self-driving on in the parking lot because it registered that it was in a parking lot, but it understood the lines. So there's 2 ways to get out of the parking lot, right? So since there's 2 ways to get out of the parking lot, the way I normally go is I go straight down this little center road of the parking lot and then take a left onto the road. But you can go further out into the parking lot and then go out and then take a left. There's 2 ways to get out onto that road. There was a truck coming opposite direction of the way I was going in that little middle area. I happened to turn on full self-driving beta with my left hand and expecting it to go straight. And I did that right before that truck got in front, like where it was passing me. And as soon as I turned it on, the car instantly hit the gas or accelerated and whipped it left and went to the next road, pulling out right in front of that truck. And it hauled ass. It like pulled out really fast. Again, faster than I could react. Matter of fact, if I would have hit the brakes, that truck would have hit me because then I would have just stopped right in front of it. I mean, it instantly turned left when I hit the button. Like instantly, when I touched that button, it turned 90 degrees to the left, like fast, and hit the gas pedal, hit the accelerator. That was not cool. It shouldn't do that. There's no reason that the car should automatically just like put you into a dangerous situation like that. So I have a video. I showed that, or I'm going to show that. Anyways, to me, beta has a long ways to go. I see the benefits, but it's more the way I would say that it works, just in general, is full self-driving beta is like riding with a Uber driver that you don't know, you don't trust, and you don't feel like they are driving good. So you're sitting there and you're like, is this guy going to get in a wreck? So that's kind of how I feel like. Another way that I hear it explained a lot from other people that also think have it or whatever with their cars is that they say it's like a riding with a teenager who has just gotten their permit. If you've ever ridden with your teenager, your 15-year-old that's got their driver's permit, it feels like you're riding with them. I would agree with both of those. I would say when it's like certain times it feels like you're riding with a permit, like the car's kind of hesitant, but then it jumps out really fast, like it does the wrong thing. because it's not sure of itself. But then also sometimes it feels like it's too sure of itself, and it just drives really bad, in my opinion. You kind of get cringed, like you're riding with that really bad Uber or taxi driver. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on full self-driving. So, I got another hour riding with it, and then I'm going to be picking up our Model Y and returning this loaner. It was fun to test it because I hadn't tried beta before. Leave a like and subscribe for more content on our Model Y or our Model 3 and other EVs that I test drive, and we'll talk to you on the next one.